Hello everybody, welcome back to the Driveway Engineer. I'm JR. It's winter time for a week this year, and behold my pile of garbage. As many of you know, I have a Cummins engine that I'll be swapping into Marv there, and I broke my own cardinal rule and I bought an incomplete engine. I managed to score last week. You guys saw a HY35 turbo from the junkyard from a 24 valve, and this week I scored these things. I came across a gentleman down in Fort Wayne, Indiana, who was just selling his dreams, essentially. He had put together or taken apart a bunch of Cummins engines to swap his OBS, and then did not do that. So JR got to profit. For $100, I grabbed all these treasures you see here, which may look like junk to some of you, but I assure you that one man's junk is another man's treasure. And when I say, the reason I tell people not to buy incomplete engines is because stuff like this will nickel and dime you to death. I see he did get me on a motor mount. I specifically asked if he had both. He said yes, and there's one. But anyway, just to go through some of the stuff, these brackets, this is the more common one that comes on the Dodge Cummins. Goes like this. Actually, AC mounts down here, alternator mounts up here. These sell for about $100. The fans are pretty expensive. This is like $65. This is a vacuum pump. I don't know, probably $20-$30 used. Power steering pump. I didn't have any of this stuff, so some of this stuff is definitely garbage to me, but some of it is useful, so I'm glad to have it. Balancers, I got 2 of them. I didn't have any. They're $200. That's why I tell you guys not to buy incomplete engines. This thing's like $65. This fan hub dealio is like $1 gazillion. The dipstick that I showed you in the last video is like $300. Woo! Lord, the dipstick I showed you in the last video is like $300-$400. They don't make them. People will be quick to point out that mine is different. That what is supposed to be on a VE pump is a different dipstick. The turbo's not good enough, whatever. I don't care about those things. Like, it all seems to fit. So I'm going to open up the shop here and get these parts laid out around the engine and determine kind of what I'm going to use, what I'm going to try to clean up and put to work. And what I'm going to put up on the shelf for later for a rainy day. So I'm a little disappointed. He got me for a motor mount. I asked that fucker if both of them were there. This poor bastard had an F-350 that like ran and drove, kind of like mine. And he bought like 3 Cummins engines, took them all apart. 24 valve, he was going to build a P-pump 24 valve was his plan. That didn't work out. You know, he ran out of motivation or skill or whatever. So he sold off all the cool parts, bought a Subaru. The engine went out. That was sitting in the garage with no engine in it. So he sold off more cool parts and bought a Civic. And that was sitting there on a flat tire, and he was driving a CRX with a JD Byrider plate on it. And it was just like the long slide into anonymity for this guy. But his fans look a little different. I wonder if they are. He literally took these off because he's like, they're used, so I didn't know. I took them off and bought new ones. Whatever. yeah, let me open up the shop and I'll bring some of the stuff in and start laying it out. Show you guys my plan for the coming weeks on the Cummins. I try to do these projects in like a logical sense, but then I interrupt my own self with different things. But I would like to get the Cummins running next, and then bolted to the transmission, and then in the truck. It's the middle of January. I don't think we're going to see too much more of this kind of bad weather. So if I can get the transfer case and everything bolted up, there's no reason why I can't jam it in the truck, put some kind of temporary cross member in it, and then leave it alone and pull the Toyota back out of the snowbank there, which should be gone next week. I can pull that up here and get to solid axle swapping it and back on jamming the BHW and automatic into it. By then it'll be time to spin. Actually, it'll be time to fire up the Dodge, figure out accessories and a drive shaft for it, so get the 440 on the road, etc, etc, etc. So let me cut away and we'll bring this stuff inside. All right, so I got my stuff in here laid out the way I think it goes. I'm not real clear on the vacuum, like obviously the gear goes into the case, and then I think that standoff hangs on that, and then the power steering pump hangs on that. Not important for today. I got a balancer. I don't have bolts for it. I'm not sure if there's a spacer that goes behind it or like a shim or whatever. If you know, let me know. I got my 3rd gen dipstick mounted up. I'm not 100% confident that the O-ring on it's going to seal there. I had to give it a little tweak here for it to bolt this bracket to bolt to this bracket, and then this is like wildly off, so I'll have to like cut that and put it down there or something. I don't know yet. The grid heater I got from the junkyard's kind of in there. I can check the oil, which was like a BFD, because I had no idea. Oh, look at that. Oh yeah, she's good to go. So, that's good. So I need bolts for the balancer before I can start it. I need a Dodge flywheel before I can start it, a Ford starter. I'm going to correct the fuckery that was afoot with this, I can't get that out right now. This VE pump, the guy I bought this for was like, yeah, it's been gone through, and I asked him what that meant, and he couldn't really articulate it. Like, well, a diesel shop went through it and fixed everything. So, for crying out loud. Just a second here. Let me show you what that meant to him. I would like to. Here's a screwdriver. So there's supposed to be a spring right here that goes to this lid. This lid was covered in silicone between my thumb and finger. You can see where I kind of burned it out and scraped it out. Yeah. So that is it's kind of like the thing that was on my Mercedes. Fucking A. Alright. So, there's my fuel pin, which is stock, and somehow that controls the amount of fuel that the pump allows in. And then around this, there's supposed to be a diaphragm that seals it up, and then a spring, and a screw that pushes down, and then off here to right here where this pipe plug is supposed to be a line that once boost hits and the intake's pressurized, it allows more fuel. That wasn't there, so this thing had to have been a slow turd. So anyway, I'm going to put an aftermarket fuel pin in it. I'm going to put a 4200 RPM governor spring in it. I'm going to fix the diaphragm and put it back the way it's supposed to be. And This uses like a banjo bolt and some bullshit, some crush washers. I'll probably just drill and tap it and use a little hose or like an AN line or something. I've got plenty of AN lines. Over here, which will be buried in the video a little bit, this is an HY35, and it is not desirable because of this exhaust housing, this flange, and the way it is. There's a gate in here, and it comes off and it hits. There's like this much space. It's like 90 degrees. But the HE341 has a V-band housing just like this, and it's 9 centimeters just like this. So this is going to spool really quick, but because of the way the gate is, it won't be able to evacuate dry pressure quick enough, and it'll spike EGT. But I think that I can just put the HE341 housing on it and then plop the whole thing onto my manifold and have a pretty quick spooling. Again, this is going to be a tow truck, so I'm not going for huge power or anything. I just want really quick spool. And I think that I'll be able to achieve that with the HE341 housing. So anyway, that's not important to start it. Right here is my piston lift pump. This is also this is a P-pump style lift pump, and they use this really heavy spring because the P-pump uses a lot higher pressure. But using this spring right here, you can lower this pressure and then have a much more. So the diaphragm style pump is like a small block Chevy, like the kind of pump you're probably used to, like any old carbureted car. This is like a toilet plunger going up and down. When you turn these pumps up, that pressure will drop to zero on the diaphragm style pump. So they sell these for like $300, but there's ancient secret posts on the internet as usual on how to make your own. So that's what's going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this on right now, actually. And I'll kind of show that. Right now that's blocked off as well. So we'll get that on, and I'll show you guys that and how it looks. And we'll probably call the video a wrap for now. So putting this on was pretty straightforward. You just used I threw the spring in there, tightened this back up. It's 1 1/8", or some metric size probably that I don't have. What I'm concerned with is that the mods to run this pump are already done. Like, I got this pump with the motor, and I'm pretty sure he was running it on here with the higher pressure. So I have concerns about this pump. It may be damaged. It's definitely been finger banged. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I should have put that line in. So this is normally on a first gen a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch line, and this one's a 1/2 inch, which tells me he already did the steps. But I did tighten the pump to the block before I got that lined up, and you know, if you work with hard lines, you know it can be challenging to maneuver them. Like, yeah, you can just bend it, but yeah, see that? Getting everything the way you want it is a little easier when everything's loose. So I'm gonna loosen this, back this up a little bit, and yeah, I hope that would allow that to drop down like that. See, it's not quite bent the way it needs to be, and he probably did what I'm doing right now, and left the pump loosey-goosey, lined this up how he needed to, tighten it down, and then send it on its way. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'll bring you guys right back. All right, so the flywheel's on the way. Haven't decided what I want to do with starter. I mean, what I want to do is find a used one somewhere, but I've been coming up empty so far. I need to put some kind of inlet on here. It'll probably be a barb for now. This is the return, so I'll have to stick, you know, I'll have a hose from a can in a can. Down here, I've learned this is the oil feed for this vacuum pump, and I have that arranged the way it goes. I don't actually need to put it on to start it, but I do need to block that or all my oil is going to shoot out. Hopefully that's a water jacket, and hopefully I'm not missing any other. Oh, I am definitely missing other. So with no turbo on, my turbo feed's going to shoot oil out too, so I might have to figure that out. I might have to pull that turbo apart and mount it temporarily just so it can take the oil feed and dump it. I think the oil feed, I think the guy that pulled it out cut it. Like, I think he cut the fitting. Oh. Did I already take that out? I thought he cut it and like left part of the fitting in there. Like he cut. I must have took it out already. So what I'll have to do is get these studs out and drill them to fit the studs. Like I said, I'm not going to run the turbo in this configuration, but I can just to start it so I don't have to cap that. So I don't think I have the means to cap it. Have to consider my options. But anyway, in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll see this thing fire up or not. I don't know why I keep doing that, because it's cold. But anyway, like I said, next 2 weeks, we'll see this thing fire up or not fire up. From there, I'll move into, like I said, I want to put this all in one shot. Like, the cab's not really bolted down on Marb. It's sitting there on the mounts with the bolts dropped through, but there's no nuts on the other side. So I can pick it up, scoot it backwards, set the drivetrain, and then move the cab back over top of it if I want to. And I think that's the way I want to do it. So just to kind of recap, it's a 3rd gen intake horn. It's a 2nd gen. So 49, 50, 51, 52, yeah. 2nd gen piston pump with a smaller spring, an industrial manifold. It'll be a 3rd gen turbo with some kind of hybrid shit going on. ZF5, MP271. 2nd gen accessories, I think. I think this shit's all off a 24 valve. It seems to fit just fine though. The reason I'm not mounting these things today is because I don't have to. I don't have the bolts. And I don't think that it's like hyper critical, and there's gaskets that would need to go in there, but it will work. I can see that, so that's nice. I checked the fan hub because it's all off the same engine. The spacing should be the same as far as in and out. So yeah, hope you're enjoying my slow journey. And we'll see you next time on The Driveway Engineer. Thanks for watching, guys.